Welcome in, friends. Today's conversation is all about health challenges, but specifically addictions. Don't panic. We're going to hold your hand through this. This is going to be a very informative and wonderful episode in your ears, so stay tuned. You're listening to the Essential Oils Scoop podcast. We're here to help you confidently using essential oils in your daily life. No fluff, just real talk and practical tips. Each episode brings you education, inspiration, and of course, our scoop of the day. Let's elevate your wellness one drop at a time. Welcome in again, friends. Okay, so you heard what I said in the intro. We're talking health challenges. We can have a lot of them, but there's hidden messaging and signaling that our body's trying to tell us, and it all ties back into our emotions. So we're going to highlight just a couple, okay? We're not going to overload you, just a couple of emotions that reside when we're talking about this topic of addiction. And we've selected two specific essential oils that Sarah and I feel would fit perfectly into this conversation. And we're going to walk you through that right now.
So addiction's big. We can talk about like a what I would say is like a minor addiction to like some seriously big, huge addictions. Like
Hmm.
they run the gamut. When we talk about addictions, I mean, we can talk anything from like being addicted to
Social
sugar,
media.
social media, the scroll, like
Hmm.
all the way to like getting into like some of the really serious addictions of like pornography, sexual addictions, even addictions to like substances and lying
Hmm.
and like there's so much like there's such a broad like it's such a huge broad area. But I think the overwhelming thing is anything that controls you and you don't have control over and hear me out on this, because there's so many people who are like, oh, I can stop that at any time. And when you do try and you fail, I really want you to hear me when I say this. That is an addiction, and it doesn't matter if it's like an acceptable, like societally acceptable addiction. It doesn't matter because I mean, we can walk into a store and you can pick up chocolate or sugar or candy or whatever, and that's socially acceptable. You can go pick up a six pack of beer. That's socially acceptable. You can go pick up a pack of cigarettes. It's on the gray area of being socially acceptable, but it's still there. Vaping, socially acceptable, right?
Hmm.
And then, then we're talking, there's the darker addictions of, deeper, harder substances of like opioids and cocaine and crack and like all these things. Like, right, there's just these things. But what it all comes back to is you having control over what you do and not allowing that whatever it is to control you. So it's that control issue. But addictive behaviors a lot of times come from chronic emotional pain.
Always come from the pain, the emotional pain, the struggle that we have. I mean, that's just fact.
Because
And
usually 98% of the time, your addiction comes because you want to distract yourself, disconnect from the pain,
Mhm.
like distance yourself from whatever
Mhm.
trauma, whatever pain, whatever thing you had going on, right? Or it's you know, stress, right? Like some people lean into addictions more when they're stressed out. I mean, that's a big thing when you're talking like on a
Yeah.
12-step program or anything like that. People want to, you have to stop what you're doing and then stop getting into the habit. Like you have to change behaviors to get away from the addictions, right? And
Uh-huh.
it's a slippery slope of how easy it is to get back into an addiction.
Oh, very easy. In my earlier adult years, I became addicted to cigarettes and I would smoke. It started as a casual thing and then I became addicted and it was a coping mechanism that I thought, I could get away with until I started doing the hard work and I realized I was better than that and I did the work necessary, right? If this book was there when younger Vicky, like, oh my gosh, I would have been so much better. But anyways, this hits home for me. The emotional roots when we're talking about addiction, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know a soul that hasn't struggled with at least one or two of these emotions. And there's no shame in it. But
No.
today, but today's episode, we're going to highlight two powerful emotions that are most common, we feel is most common, and the oils that we can lean into to help us move through it, work through it, because addiction's no joke. Whether it be small or big, it's still a struggle. And these oils are here to support you so it feels less of a burden, a weight on your shoulder, call it whatever you want to call it.
And we
Mhm.
also have to remember that people with addictions, they're still humans. They still need our love. We we can I don't like we can love a person and not be enabling their addictions, right? Like, and it's hard. It's hard if you are a parent of someone who's addicted to something, it's hard to watch them go down that route and draw boundaries and draw lines of in the sand of going, we can't cross this, right? And, a lot of people enable people with addictions because they love the person. I mean, what it really comes down to is if we have a loved one in our life that has an addiction, we love them and we don't want to see them harm themselves in any way or harm others. And it's hard. It's hard to love, to be to have a child or a loved one in your life that has an addiction, and it can hurt us. Okay, we can
Yeah.
have emotional trauma from other people's addictions as well. It can be very heavy and overwhelming for us, and a burden that we have to bear sometimes as family and loved ones of people with addictions. And I think it's very crucial that you understand if you're going through that, if you're a loved one of someone who's addicted to something, um, how do you deal with that, and how you deal with your own emotions tied to that person's addiction, right? And how do you? It's such a it's like a fine line we have to dance, right? Of like, how do we help them but not enable them? How do we set our own boundaries but not allow them to cross those boundaries? How do we protect ourselves and other loved ones
Hmm.
from the effects that these addictions can cause? Um, the different potential routes. Well, first of all, addiction is not a weakness. It's not something we just have to like muster up and just, we have to understand that addictions come from a place of pain. They come from a place of
Unprocessed trauma.
unprocessed trauma, of unrealized expectations are not being met.
Yeah.
Disappointments are happening. I mean, these are some of the emotions that we'll be talking about here in a minute. There's a lot of shame that comes around this. There's a lot of
Mhm.
shame for the person who does have addictions. There's also a lot of shame for family members and loved ones of people who have addictions, right? Think
Mhm.
about an alcoholic, for example, or a drug addict. Their families suffer a lot with shame of this family member who's doing these things, who's acting a certain way. I mean, you know, there's so much here, and there's a lot of emotional neglect on both sides. Emotional neglect of the person who is addicted and is causing these addicted behaviors. Emotional neglect on the behalf of the family members. Like there's so much. This is such a hard subject because it can go from like something, I heard somebody once tell me they had a food addiction, and I kind of was a little bit dismissive of it because I'm like, well, that's not really that big it like you like food, okay, like I was a little bit dismissive when the person was telling me about their food addiction because I was like, well, yeah, I like tacos too, like almost like excusing them. And oh, then I found out it goes a lot deeper, right? It goes a lot deeper into like an eating disorder and that type of thing. And I was like, ooh, I shouldn't have been so dismissive of their opening up about this problem. I shouldn't have been flippant about Well, sure, I like Taco Tuesday too, and I eat a lot, I like tacos, like it's
Hmm.
different. It's hits different. My like of tacos is not the same for this person who is deeply struggling with eating disorders and different
Yeah,
things.
food noise, all that comes with that.
Yeah.
Sarah, I like what you said, the loved ones of someone that is addicted. That is a other conversation that I think we can highlight in a completely separate episode, but I would lean into Rose. If a family member within your household, someone close to you is struggling, it affects you as well at a different capacity, and that rose essential oil would be a beautiful ally for you. Now, again, like we said, there's two oils that we're going to highlight within this category of addiction, and there's others. However, we felt like these two were overarching in the sense of we think it will serve the majority and hopefully brighten your awareness, bring more awareness to tools that are available at your fingertips. Sarah, was there any other thing you wanted to highlight before we tap into the oils?
Um, Patience and love. I mean, patience with yourself if you have your own demons that you're fighting, and patience and love for the person that might be fighting some demons in your life. Like, and I'm not, and it's okay to seek help. We
Hmm.
can't always fight our own addictions by ourselves. Sometimes we have to get someone else to help us, whether
Hmm.
that be a family member, whether that be a spouse, whether that be a parent or a friend. I was actually just talking to a bunch of young children about this the other day, literally just like yesterday. Um, and I was with a friend and we were teaching in this classroom setting. And I said, I used to be addicted. I had a bad habit. Sometimes we don't call addictions what they really are. We call them bad habits, right? We've said that. I have a bad habit. I bit my nails. I used to bite my nails. And so this is why it's age appropriate to tell children, right? Like about biting nails. It's not necessarily
Hmm.
age appropriate to talk about other addictions, but this is a very age appropriate conversation that I had with a bunch of 9-year-old children. And so I was talking about biting my nails. And I said, you know what? I went to my friend and I pointed to my friend and I said, I had to go to her and ask her for help. And so she started doing my nails so I would stop biting my nails because I didn't want to mess up my pretty nails. I said, so I had to okay, I've tried all these other things. They're not working for me. I needed to get outside help. And I think we have to remember, even as I'm talking to a 9-year-old, they can understand getting outside help of from themselves. And I want you to know that there is shame surrounding a lot of addictions and bad habits or whatever you want to call that, but that it's okay to seek for outside help, to ask for help, whatever that might be, accountability partner, going into some sort of addiction recovery program, 12-step program, anything like that, that helps you and gives you accountability and that support, that extra support, because friends, you can not just muster your way through it or muscle your way through it. It's serious, and your loved ones and you deserve better than just trying to have the shame of trying to muscle through it and then sinking back into it, like sleep, I don't know, slinking back into this hole and feeling so much. You're adding on so much more emotional trauma onto yourself that doesn't need to be there
Hmm.
if you can be open to outside resources.
Yeah. Well, it's a hamster wheel. There's recovery for a reason. It depends on what it is. So before we go even further, again, we're just going to highlight uh two emotions that we feel is overarching that you guys can relate to. We're going to highlight two oils that can help you with the work that gets to be done. But again, you have to choose this for you, right? We can bring a horse to water, but we can't have the horse drink it. So, without further ado, we love you and we want to highlight the emotion of being disappointed. Okay. Disappointment falls on everyone, but it gets heavier with addiction, disappointment. And so I love the look deeper questions in the Essential Emotions book. Get yourself the book. I love what it says. What did I lose or miss out on? What was I hoping for that didn't materialize? What needs to be acknowledged in order for me to move forward? Wow. So, the two questions that out of the three, what was I hoping for that didn't materialize? I am almost positive that everyone could answer that question. Okay. And then what needs to be acknowledged? What do you have to take ownership and acknowledge for you to move forward? So, the essential oil that Sarah and I would love to highlight for this category is spikenard. And spikenard is the essential oil of gratitude and release. Okay. Spikenard is a beautiful oil. How many of you, show of hands because we can't see it, but how many of you have ever used spikenard for a non-physical ailment? Yeah. I don't know how many of you have, truthfully, and that's okay. After today, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I can lean into spikenard for this. Again, spikenard is the essential oil of gratitude and release. So, spikenard reminds the soul that nothing real can be lost. It anchors the spirit in divine presence and offers rest in what is eternal. It teaches that spiritual strength is not only found in what one holds onto, but in what they are willing to return. Spikenard acts as a companion at the threshold, inviting peace in the face of unknown, gratitude for the gift of life, and remembrance of the sacred knowing that lives beyond worlds. Spikenard encourages open hands instead of tight grip grasps. It reminds the heart that even in loss, wisdom is gathered, and blessings often arrive in disguise. So, only my experience, right? We can only share our experiences. It is really hard when you are feeling, again, when you are feeling disappointment. At least for me, it's really hard to see the light and the gifts within every day. And there's a ton of them all the time. All the time, all around you, there's wonderful things happening. But when you're in that space, that mindset, it is really hard to get those glimpses of joy and the encouragement, the spiritual enlightenment seems very dull. And that's been my experience. So tapping into an oil that can help elevate your gratitude, to help you release what doesn't serve you. Like this is like one of your BFFs in this moment. Someone that you can really lean on to help you release, help you tap into to stillness, peacefulness, gratitude, clarity. I don't know. I just think it's a great oil. Sarah, I would love your thoughts on spikenard.
Well, I know I've talked about this. I think we've done like 3 or 4 episodes where we've talked about spikenard in the past, but one I know we definitely talked about was when we did oils in the Bible. And this oil, I just it has such a special place for me, right? Like I know I've discussed this at length in several different podcasts that we have about um its history, like the history of using spikenard. And there's this point I know I've talked about this once before, but I'll just highlight the story once more. So you remember the story of Mary and Martha, and Mary um like, okay, so there's these two sisters, and Jesus is teaching at their home, and Martha's like, why isn't my sister helping? right? She gets a little annoyed with her sister for not helping because she's just sitting there and eating up like everything that Jesus is teaching at this point. So she's, and then Mary does this very selfless thing, and Mary goes and buys spikenard. Okay. It's a balm. Okay. So, and washes Jesus's feet and then puts this on. And Judas, he's like, I don't know, Judas, in my opinion, has a lot of money issues. Like, if we're gonna like dissect him psychologically, he has a lot of money issues, obviously. And he's like, "Oh, you should give all that money to the poor. Like, why are you spending money on this?" And Jesus is like, "Hey, let her go. Like, she knows she's only going to have me for a short period of time. And this is what she wants to do to show her love and devotion for me. You can be quiet for a few minutes and let her do what she wants to do, basically." And I am very, very much paraphrasing, like, actually read your Bible and get the actual story. But in this moment, she is showing her love, her gratitude, her um, devotion to Jesus Christ by washing his feet, by putting this very expensive, like at this point in that time frame, you're talking about a half a year's worth of wages for this ointment for his feet, which could feed, yeah, a lot of poor people. And one of Jesus's responses to Judas is, "There will always be poor among you, but you have me for just such a short period of time." He's like basically foreshadowing his death. He's preparing the people closest to him that he will be dying, that death is imminent for him soon. And like, I love this oil because it teaches us this deep gratitude, this deep devotion, this deep, it has so much more deep, like, I want to say depth than other oils sometimes. I believe. And when it talks about people who are moving through grief and deeply cherished, and this oil tends to the soul with reverence, making the space for sorrow, and honors the ache of parting, and gently carries the heart through holiness of goodbye. That's basically what we're being taught in the Bible as well. Like, this is this sacred devotion. And nothing is actually going to be lost, right? And Spikenard teaches us nothing is truly lost. When you are fighting with addictions, when you're fighting with some of these disappointments of life, you are never truly lost. There's always a way back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So use Spikenard. Use it
Hmm.
with gratitude. Use it with just being so grateful that you have this amazing oil at your fingertips, and that you can apply this to your wrist or forehead or your solar plexus. But I would invite you at some point, maybe wash your own feet and put a little bit on the bottoms of your feet and just sit there in quiet meditation for a moment and think, what do I need to do next in this moment of sorrow or heaviness or whatever you're feeling, this disappointment, these addictions, or family members that are addicted? What do you need to do next? And I think as you sit in those quiet moments, you'll receive answers of what you need to do next. And that is the beauty of this oil.
Yeah. It's good. And we felt it'd be so suiting for this conversation. Like Sarah said, apply 1 to 3 drops on your wrist. Your solar plexus is your upper stomach area. Diffuse it or take what she offered and wash your own feet with it. So spikenard friends, it is the essential oil of gratitude and release. It is a beautiful supporter for those specific reasons. Now we have a second one, and Sarah, I would love for you to introduce it to our listeners.
So I was thinking about emotionally disconnected, because a lot of times with addictions and things that we're struggling with, we are emotionally disconnected, or
From
we
reality.
want to emotionally disconnect, right?
Hmm.
We want to distract ourselves. A lot of times, with addiction, people don't want to actually deal with life or deal with the emotions that they're dealing with or the trauma that they've had in the past or whatever it is they're trying to actually
I didn't.
disassociate.
Yeah, 1000%.
And so
1000%.
is that bad? Is it good? Whatever, but it's not healthy.
Mhm.
Okay. Disassociating from your life, disconnecting from life, trying to do other things besides what you are supposed to be doing, procrastinating in hopes that you'll not feel this way isn't actually dealing with anything. It's only like compounding your issues. It's only making them worse because then you add extra emotions onto it of the guilt, the shame, the disappointment, the whatever you want to like put in this, the frustration. How many times have you been frustrated with an addiction that you have that you can't get rid of?
Becomes a stupid vicious cycle.
And you're angry with
Oh
yourself and you're
yeah.
angry with others and you're angry with another person that has an addiction and you're just bitter, right? You have a lot of bitterness, you have a lot of anger, you have a lot of resentment towards yourself, towards others. Like it's such a vicious, yeah, like a vicious cycle. It's so all consuming, right? So,
Absolutely all consuming. And for some circumstances, the people around you.
mhm,
It's, yeah, relationship breakers,
they can be. Oh, they can
Mhm.
be absolutely, they can destroy marriages, they can destroy long-term
Friendships.
relationships, friendships, parent-child relationships, they can destroy
Mhm.
work relationships, they can destroy your
Yeah.
work life.
Yeah. Yes. So
Like,
what oil, friend? What oil
well,
are we
we're going to talk
highlighting?
about emotionally disconnected, but I
Hmm.
want to hit some of these questions. I love the look deeper questions, and we're going to go
Heck
back
yeah.
in a few minutes and go into the look deeper questions under addictions too. But these ones are especially under emotionally disconnected because if you are dealing with any of this, I want you to really sit down with these particular questions. Who or what am I disconnected from? What is preventing me from being fully present? What do I need to acknowledge and address before I can establish an emotional connection? So, the oil that I want to highlight in this is marjoram.
Hmm.
I have to tell you, I thought marjoram was a great oil for um muscles. Okay, muscle issues. Um,
Because it
but
is.
this, it is. This is one my daughter has loved the smell of since the first time she ever smelled it. She loved this oil. And
Really? I did not know
mhm,
that.
yeah, yep.
That's cool.
Marjoram aids those who are unable to trust others or form meaningful relationships. So if you are struggling in your trust issues, if you're struggling with um, fear of close connection because somebody might hurt you or break a trust or whatever, marjoram shows the barriers individuals have formed to protect themselves from others. It reveals patterns of aloofness, distancing oneself from other people, or being cold.
Mhm.
And sometimes we do this. We are in the height of our addictions.
Yeah.
We distance ourselves, we pull away, and we blame those other people saying, well, they left me. No, 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 no. You actually left them.
Been there, done that, girl. This is preaching to the old choir over here. Hmm.
Marjoram teaches that trust is the basis for all relationships. It assists individuals in increasing their warmth, their trust in social situations. It softens the heart and heals past wounds. And that's what we're trying to really get to, softening the heart and healing those past wounds.
Hmm.
That's really, if you want to get into the nitty gritty of everything that we teach you about emotions, it is right there to heal past wounds.
Hmm. And it gives you the heart space required in order to do that. It'll help support what needs to be supported, what's so deeply wanting the support. Again, in the very beginning of this episode, Sarah's like, there's no shame in any of this. There's no shame in this conversation, period. There's only some tools that we're giving you a better awareness of so you can choose in when you're ready.
And I want to just like a note for parents, if a child comes to you with something like this, guard your reaction.
So what does that
Like
mean?
when they say, "Hey, mom, dad, whatever, I'm struggling with," maybe it's a pornography addiction, maybe it's a food addiction, maybe it's a substance addiction, maybe it's alcohol, whatever. Okay. Guard your reaction. Because if you act angry, shocked, disappointed, if you show that emotion, you will shut down the conversation before it even starts. So practice really hard at when your child comes to you or you find out about something to not blow a gasket when you first hear it. Because you don't want to add on to more shame, more distrust. They're not going to trust you. You blow up and you blow up your relationship. You want to foster a lot of trust and okay. And you can try very hard to keep yourself monotone. Okay. Thank you for telling me. What do you think we can do to what can I do to support you?
Hmm.
Like asking and support like what that person wants you to do for their support will give you a whole lot more insight than if you just blow up at them and accuse them and be fill this moment with anger. It is not going to help your relationship. It will hurt the relationship and it will cause even more disconnection and more distrust and more
Well,
disappointment.
it's interesting that you mentioned this, which I'm so happy you did, because I've also witnessed conversations where you really don't need to solve it right then and there. Sometimes the only answer you should, in my opinion, give is that was a lot to hear. I'm going to need some time and come back to this.
Mhm.
So,
Don't try to solve this all in the first moment you hear about everything. And we do
mm,
have a tendency, human nature is a tendency to fix, right?
fix.
Fix
Yes.
what's broken.
Fixer.
And
Uh-huh.
sometimes it takes, what can I do to support you? What do you
Hmm.
need from me?
Hmm.
Because what they may need from you is just to listen and just to know that you're still there.
Hmm.
And what they may need from you is accountability or help or a structure, or there might be a lot of things that they actually need, but in this moment, they just need you.
Hmm.
Nothing else. You don't need to fix them right this second. There'll be plenty of time for fixing. But at the very beginning of opening up about an addiction or finding out about a problem, anger and wrath have no place in helping.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Soft
And
answer
Marjoram,
always turns away wrath, right? Like we know that our soft answer will always turn away wrath. And um, you know, if you need to initiate some hard conversations, using marjoram maybe as in a diffuser with some lavender may be a great way to kind of soften the conversation, but open up those lines of communication to teach that trust and have that open dialogue, having connection, and also calming you all at the same time. So I would highly recommend using marjoram in this way where you can help build these relationships of trust and hopefully it restores that trust and openness. So at some point, relationships can heal. And though
mm,
you may be so angry, frustrated, disappointed, and like feel like the universe just sucker punched you in the stomach as you're listening to these children or loved ones or neighbors or friends or whoever it may be, you can be the catalyst that helps them just by being the listening ear.
Yeah. Marjoram is very underutilized, at least in the world I live in, underutilized for its emotional benefits, really. And I fall into this category. I mainly use marjoram for its physical benefits because experience, I have a great outcome when I apply marjoram topically. I just do. And I seldomly use, and I used to use marjoram, no joke, Sarah. I used to use marjoram more often around specific family members. And then I don't know why I got away from that practice. But in the Essential Emotions book, the last two sentences really hit home. And I think maybe Sarah mentioned it. If she did, I'm going to say it again. But it states when individuals feel safe and loved, they express their authenticity more freely. Marjoram restores trust and openness so that true bonds of love may be formed in friendships and relationships. And we're here to have those. On this earth, living this human experience, it is my knowing that our life should be filled with these friendships and relationships. And so if you're struggling, if any of this resonated, then lean in. Why not? You have nothing to lose and so much to gain with Marjoram's insight. It's the essential oil of connection for a reason. And I'm so happy Sarah wanted to highlight that today.
I think, going back to this idea of the addictions and what are we trying to escape from this? I love the look deeper questions under the addiction section. It's so good. I'm going to read
Yes.
them because they're so good. What am I trying to escape, soothe, or avoid? Was there a time when comfort, connection, or safety were unpredictable or withheld? Do I believe I must earn love, rest, or approval? What would it look like to comfort myself in ways that nourish rather than numb? Is there a part of me that still believes I am not worthy of healing or love? Am I willing to meet my needs with honesty and compassion? Like there's so
So
many
freaking
great
good.
questions.
So good. All of them are great. Like I'm like, ooh, I get to journal on this. Like in my head while you're talking about it right now. I'm like, wow, these hit. These hit really good. Oh, that's
And and
good.
and these are great questions to ask yourself if you are having issues. These are also great questions to ask your loved ones when you're having conversations about this. What are you trying to escape from? What are you trying to numb? What are you trying to get away from? What are you trying to disconnect yourself from?
Hmm.
What's really there? What's
Yeah.
really going on? And gosh,
And
I love this.
there's no wrong answer here.
No,
There's no
this
right
is
answer here. Like,
how you feel. How
yeah.
you feel is not wrong or right.
Mm-mm.
How you feel is your emotion. And I wish somebody had told me that when my kids were little. I wish emotions had been more taught. I mean, they were. My kids were fairly young when I learned about emotions and the body and how we store them and all the things. But my older kids were a little bit older, and so I didn't get to raise them the way I did my younger two with that understanding. And so I learned so much in between children, right? Like as I learned, like my parenting changed because I became a better version of me. And this is what I think a lot of people don't understand about their parents. They're like, oh, my parents were so horrible, but they're so nice to my kids. Like, I don't understand. Well, because they grew and mature. They grew when you were growing. And then they realized, looking back, hey, maybe I may have done some things that weren't so smart. And maybe I wasn't the best parent for you because I was learning myself. And sometimes we have to give parents grace of, well, crap, they didn't know what they were doing either. Like, I don't
I
know
didn't
what
know
I'm
what they
doing.
didn't know.
my parents didn't, I can go on and on with like all the things my parents did wrong with me and my siblings, because there's such a huge gap. My siblings see my parents so how they parented me so much differently than how they parented my siblings. Part of it's age, but part of it was like they learned more. Part of it was they were older and just more tired, and they picked their battles a little bit more carefully. And then the other part of it was they also go, wait, that didn't really work with that kid and that kid and that kid. Maybe we shouldn't do that one with this kid. And so I think we've got to give our own parents some grace of how they raised us because they were just doing the best they could. And there's no instruction manuals when it comes to babies. Like you get a whole 10 seconds in the hospital with the nurses showing you how to clean an umbilical cord, how to like change a diaper, how to use the blue nose sucker. And then they're like, okay, here you go. Off you go. And you're like, what? I'm responsible for this little human and keeping them alive. And I've got to like not just keep them alive physically and make sure they're fed and their physical needs are being met. But now you've also got to tell me that I've got to deal with my own emotional crap that I've never dealt with. And now I've got to be responsible for their emotional happiness and well-being and all that stuff too. Like, okay,
Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
yeah, we figure it out as parents, but sometimes we don't figure it out right. And sometimes we're learning just along with our kids. As our kids are growing and learning, we're learning how to deal with them. Like
Yeah.
we're not perfect. Parents are not perfect.
Mhm.
But I will tell you, as a parent, to learn about emotions, to learn about how to deal with your own emotions so that you can help your children learn how to deal with their emotions.
Yeah. Amen, girl. Amen. So, for the scoop of the day, to wrap this up in a beautiful bow, my scoop of the day is to actually put either marjoram or spikenard, one in your diffuser, and I'll leave that to Sarah, but work through at least two of the look deeper questions that we highlighted today. I can't choose for you. We gave you multiple questions for you to do some work with. And I only give you this homework because the only way that we get to grow and learn is by doing, putting it into action. And you're worth it. So do that. I already know I'm going to actually be dialoguing all the look deeper questions that addiction has. They are amazing, amazing look deeper questions. So I'm excited to see what comes from it. Sarah, what's your scoop of the day?
Oh, I have so much I still want to talk about, but
I know.
we could go on for like hours on this. But I think the most important thing is that you are a support or are being supported as you're going through these. Be the support system. If you have issues and addictions and bad habits or whatever you want to call them, you need to get yourself a support system. At the same time, if you have loved ones, you need to be that support system and work through your own emotions. Um, I love going through those look deeper questions, but I'm going to give you a diffuser blend. I already kind of said it before. Use marjoram and lavender together. So
Mm-hmm.
do 3 marjoram and 4 lavender in your diffuser and work through some of these things in a calm, respectful moment environment, to have that environment of it being calm and respectful so you can build that trust and use these oils. Use spikenard on the bottoms of your feet, on your solar plexus, on your forehead, on your wrists. Use marjoram in the same places. Use marjoram on your chest. Allow yourself to feel that trust again. And do yourself a favor and listen to we'll link it in the show notes, our marjoram episode that we did a while back, and we'll also the ancient oils episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode and are feeling inspired to dive in even deeper into the world of essential oils. Want exclusive offers, content, and recipes? Click on the newsletter link in the show notes today. Looking for even more wellness inspiration? Dive into our previous episodes and stay in the loop by following us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at the Essential Oil Scoop Podcast. Thanks for being a part of our essential oil family. And remember, hit the subscribe button to be notified every time we upload a brand new episode.